Welcome to a Monday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. Bill, how was your weekend? I trust things happened. It went well.
It was great. I had a little bit of the Reddit "Am I the jerk face" thread on Reddit. I had a little bit of that on my airplane trip home. I don't think I'm the jerk face, but the reporting trip went well. Spent some time with the Warriors. Spent
Yes.
some time with Jerry Stackhouse. I'm going to write about him. I need to do some more reporting in the next maybe week. Went great. I mean, I got sort of mixed performances from Golden State while I was there, but I guess
Yes,
that
you
kind of
did.
reflects what everybody's doing right now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about those Warriors because it has been sort of an up and down. The recent vintage Warriors has been up and down, and it was an up and down weekend for them. Later in the show, we're going to discuss Embiid played his first game since mid-November. That'll be in our weekend radar segment. We'll get into the NBA Cup knockout round that begins tomorrow. So we'll do a little previews and predictions, and we'll do team of the night. But as you mentioned, the Warriors, Bill, a little up and down this weekend. The Lakers, same deal. The Nugs, same deal. All of those teams had really rough losses and then much needed wins this weekend. I guess let's start with Golden State since you were there in Golden State. They split with the Wolves this weekend. They broke a 5-game losing streak to the Wolves yesterday. They've still lost 6 of 8, though. Draymond ended up going to the bench and then having to come back because of injury issues. What'd you learn? What'd you glean while you're up there?
That I don't understand what's going on with the Warriors, and neither do they. So I got in for the Thursday game, and I know, we talked about a little bit Friday, but they won that game without Steph and without Dre, and they played really good defense. And I talked to Stackhouse on Friday before that game, and his view was, if we can win games that are two guys, that level of defensive effort, the things I'm trying to work on, that bodes well. And then those inconsistencies, even with Steph and Draymond back on the team, just popped right up. And then you're right, it was one of those weird, it's not a back-to-back, but one of those weird, you play the same team with a day in between. And I think it's just, this is what we talked about last week. It's what Brad and I talked about. There's a lot of parity in the West, and some of that is spurred on by the fact that these teams that we thought were really good at the start, or teams like the Nuggets we thought would be really good, they're different teams, different nights, John.
Yeah, there's glimmers with the Warriors where I can see proof of concept, and I'm like, okay, I get this. But then there were injuries, and I like start to question a little bit what Steve Kerr is doing. So they ended up losing Wiggins in the first game against the Wolves, and then they also lost Kevon Looney, and Looney returned for the second game, but Wiggins was still out. So then I'm expecting, okay, maybe you shorten up the rotations a little bit, but then he's running out Lindy Waters and Pat Spencer. Pat Spencer, by the way,
Spencer, yeah,
that's a weird story. You know about this, right? Like him playing lacrosse. And so for people who don't know, he was an acclaimed college lacrosse player, won like whatever their Heisman is, and then transfers to Northwestern, plays basketball there, and then like is in the NBA now. And, kudos to him having an awesome story. I don't know that I need a whole lot of, I know he only played 7 minutes in that game, but what are we talking about here?
I wish I could remember, because I think it was on Thursday, maybe Friday. One of the nights I couldn't believe he had minutes, and he had a really nice pass. And I texted Brad and Aaron, like, let's get it to a 13-man rotation. And it was just vitriol that came back from our resident Warriors fans. What's he doing out there?
It's a strange situation. So before game 1 against the Wolves, because they had that baseball series that you were up there for, Draymond got moved to the bench, and Steve Kerr and all these guys, basically it was like Kuminga had played really well in the W that they got over the Rockets when Steph didn't play and
was
Draymond
that game
didn't play.
Oh
yeah. So he looked
amazing.
good. I'm not a Kuminga guy, but I get why Steve Kerr would like want to see some more from him. So Draymond ends up getting moved to the bench. And now he ended up starting game 2 because of these injuries. But Draymond did talk about getting moved to the bench. And I thought what he said was pretty instructive. We're going to play that clip.
I know a lot of people in this organization, including myself, think he's next. And so if he's next, at some point we got to see it. And for him to do that, he needs the opportunity. Like I said, if the opportunity falls on you, being me, then that's what it is. And you got to figure it out.
So here's my thing. There's, regardless of whether or not Draymond is starting or not, Bill, they're still closing with him. But my question is, 1, do you buy that Kuminga is next? And 2, are you buying Draymond being the good soldier here?
Okay, so I'll take the first part first and the second part second. I am higher on Kuminga than you are, and I buy that he needs to be next. And they need it to be so. And he looked great on Thursday. And not just and I know that's last Thursday, but not just in the totality of the game. No Steph, no Dre. They were on a losing streak, right? You want to try to break that. He closed the game. He was the fourth quarter sort of engine for that team and played he played really well to start, sort of set the tone, and played really well to finish. So there's flashes of it. Do I buy that it's real? I mean, it's been a long time, and I think you can make an argument that Steve Kerr has not managed him properly for many years and has already undercut some of that confidence. And I think that's hard to get back. I really do. Do I buy that Draymond Green? I'll tell you this, like, not that you're going to learn new things about Draymond Green being around the Warriors, but one of the sort of themes that I heard from a bunch of people on and off the record was that Draymond is, as you know, very dominating, very domineering, very hard on guys, but that if you earn his trust, that it's a real thing and that he has been working on, or they're selling the idea that some of the young guys and some of the expanded names because of this expanded rotation, that new players who aren't the old guys have earned some of his trust. So that's certainly what they're selling, even before he said what he said, that Draymond is maybe opening up a little bit wider to the people within that Warriors rotation, that team who he believes in, who he's going to back, right? Less Jordan Pooleisms and more, let me sort of lend the weight of my prestige and my veteran status here. So again, in both cases, maybe.
Yeah. For Kuminga, for me, I mean, there's flashes. He was really good in that Rockets game. There's no doubt. And that's what,
he popped.
He popped. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe I was wrong about Kuminga. I just like, I haven't seen enough consistency there. I do believe, though, that Draymond doesn't really care about the starting issue relative to closing. If he wasn't closing, I think there'd be a problem. And last night he was in foul trouble and they still brought him back. So I think like that's a more important.
I think that's
thing,
right.
Like when you're in close games, especially, and he's so good still.
I do believe that he cares about winning more than anything else. And that's not a lot of NBA guys, a lot of just people say they do, but they really care about themselves. I think Dre's a psycho when it comes to competition in a good way. And so if he can convince himself that Kuminga starting makes sense and Dre closing makes sense for the team, if he actually believes it, then I'll buy that everything he's saying is on the up and up.
So a little up and down weekend for the Warriors. They were 1-1 against the Wolves. The Wolves, by the way, we'll discuss during our weekend radar segment because they had a really good stretch there that I wanted to run past you. But other teams in the Western Conference that have a little bit of an identity crisis include, let's do the Nuggets next. The Nuggets, Bill, what a super weird weekend for them. They lose to the Wizards on the road. The Wizards had lost 16 games in a row. And then here come the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, who has a career high 56-point double-double, almost a triple-double, and they still lose that game. And then you're thinking, okay, the wheels are coming off this thing. What's going on with the Nuggets? They go to Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks had just beaten the Lakers. They were on a 6-game winning streak. I thought it was curtains for the Nuggets. They blow the doors off of the Hawks. They win by 30 points. I have no idea what to make of the Nuggets.
I don't know what to make of the Nuggets or all the teams that we're going to talk about. Even the Celtics. I don't want to hit that in weekend radar. I mean, there's a lot of outcomes that are when you go into the games, not the ones that you anticipate. I think here's what I think I know about Denver. Here's what I think is true. I think all the talk that you and I had in the lead up to this season about the ways in which their depth was being cut down because of the new collective bargaining agreement and the way that this thing works and the skepticism about Russell Westbrook and the worries about Jamal Murray and when he's healthy, what he can be because of what happened with the Olympics and the inconsistencies of MPJ. I think it all adds up to the fact that Denver's not very good and Jokic is one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. And I think that's what they are. I don't think they're a very good – I don't think they're an elite basketball team. Maybe they're okay. And some nights Joker's going to do enough to carry him. And some nights they're going to get some other help and he doesn't need to carry him. And some nights he's going to score career-high points and almost have a 50-point triple-double, but they just suck that night and they're not going to win. As a team, I don't think they're very good.
A 56-point almost triple-double. Bill, he scored in 24 hours. That man scored 104 points by himself, and they went 1-1. And at first, when I was looking at the box score that night, I'm like, my brain was melting out of my ear. I'm like, how did they lose this game? And then I thought, okay, well, they didn't have Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. Right. And then I had to stop myself and go, who cares? It's the Wizards who were without Kuzma and Sarr, and there's no excuse for losing to the Wizards. Absolutely none. And I think you're absolutely right that they need more help. Like Joker needs more help. I mean, I wonder now, he's gone into, I'm going to score all the points, right? And I'm going to set everybody up and I'm going to be extra quicker. But at some point, the bill's going to come due on that at some point. He's been really, really durable. I don't think it's an injury issue, but I do wonder if it would be a fatigue thing because there's no plays off for him. He doesn't move super quick anyway, but that's still a lot of energy that you have to exert.
The other thing about this team that would really help, right? Because I think offensively, they're just bad defensively. I mean, and this is like a Michael Malone team that is supposed to, at a minimum, do the base. And I have this in my brain because my entire focus in debate was on defense for the Warriors, but do the basics right and put in the effort and put in the energy. We've talked a lot this year about the Clippers and how certainly early on we thought maybe they weren't very good, but they play hard. The Nuggets look insouciant and laid back and not giving a damn on defense. And that doesn't make sense because just put in the effort and put in the energy and compete defensively. I don't even know where they are, but they were 18-19 over the weekend in defensive rating. That's another thing. Just like get the defense right, and Joker will carry you to enough wins that you'll at least they're 16th right now. You'll at least look like an approximated contender. That's another huge concern for me because that is a very non-Michael Malone kind of thing that's going on.
You got to put in the effort, and just I should note, kudos to you on putting in the effort on a Monday, just dropping a casual insouciant right into the middle of the conversation. I mean, you're not taking off any plays today. That's very impressive. The other team in the Western Conference that's hard to get a read on is the Lakers, Bill. As I mentioned, they lost to the Hawks in overtime in a game that they really should have won on Friday night, I believe it was. LeBron went for 39 points in a triple-double. AD almost had a triple-double himself. And then LeBron sits out last night with a foot injury or a foot issue. I don't think he's actually hurt. It was just this is something else that I'm going to bring up on Weekend Raider. Very suspiciously, as we go into this NBA Cup stretch where a lot of teams are going to be off until Thursday or Friday, some big names took off last night just out of nowhere. So we'll discuss that in a second. But anyway, they play the Blazers last night, and they get a win, much-needed win against the Blazers. D'Angelo Russell had 28 points and 14 assists. They still didn't start him despite the fact that they were missing a number of people. The Lakers are a team that we've discussed a lot about not knowing what they are, and I feel like that more than ever now. It's a very difficult team to get a read on.
I feel better about making an assessment on this team and what I think they're going to be than the Nuggets and the Warriors. I don't think that they're very good. And I think that we have seen LeBron in particular, but AD too, over the last, I suppose, week sort of elevate their levels and play at a high level. And LeBron James doing the things that he's done since I said he was washed is not sustainable for the rest of the year since it's only, what is today, December 9th. And I also think that there's a question that's unanswered, but I don't know that JJ Redick's the right guy. I mean, there's all this, people sort of see in JJ Redick what they want to see, right? He's a Rorschach test. If you thought JJ was going to be great, you can kind of see it. And if you thought JJ was going to be a disaster, you can kind of see it. I was somewhat neutral. I was uncertain, really smart, very arrogant. Arrogance, okay. Smart is great. He is LeBron's or was podcast partner. There's just a lot of dynamics that were hard to know which way they were going to go. And John, so far, I find the results to be really underwhelming for JJ Redick.
It's been curious. Up to and including the usage rate of Dalton Knecht in his shot selection. I thought again last night, no LeBron, and LeBron flagged this, right? No Austin Reeves, no Jared Vanderbilt, no Christian Wood, no Jackson Hayes. LeBron was saying that like the Lakers are missing some big pieces. I don't know. If you have LeBron and AD out there, then like you should be better than other teams on most nights, or at least you'd hope to be. But Dalton Knecht getting single-digit shots on a night against Portland where they really were looking for offense was sort of suspicious to me. I would have expected, especially after they drafted him and immediately JJ was talking about like, I'm drawing up plays for this kid and I could see myself in him. And, he looked like there were moments where he flashed this season where you're like, oh, right. That makes sense. This kid's NBA ready right now.
He belongs. There have been these moments where look, so, and producer Aaron just pointed this out, they have a worse record than at this point last year.
Surprising.
And it's an imperfect, right? It's a little bit of an imperfect thing, but it is surprising. I don't think the Lakers
feel like a better team to me this year than they were last year, because last year there was so much drama and like everybody was like, what's going on with the Lakers and is Darvin Ham going to survive and blah, blah, blah. This year, there are moments when I thought, especially again, if they win that game against the Hawks where Trae Young hit the game winner, but he has not shot the ball well this season. He did not shoot the ball well that night. He was 9 for 25, I believe. They go to overtime and they just cough the ball up and give it away. It's like,
and the last couple games they played,
coaching maybe
they're not playing the Celtics and the Thunder the last couple, right? I mean, you're talking about Portland and Utah. I mean, they should not be hard basketball games, especially when LeBron's out there playing well and or AD is out there playing well. To the point that you just made, I think that they're underwhelming, and I think they're, what are they, 12-8 record. I am a lot more skeptical of that 12-8 record than I might be some other teams that are in the same range.
The thing that I think is most concerning is the defense, right? I mean, they're 22nd in defensive rating. That's difficult to fix with the personnel that you have, and concerning because you've got AD, who's first team all defense, and you've got LeBron, who, while he is aging and hasn't played as well at that end of the floor this season as maybe he has in the past, is a willing defender. Had a chase down block in overtime against the Hawks. He looked amazing. It's just like, with those two guys on the floor, you should be better than 22nd in defense.
Oh, they're not 12-8. We're much deeper in the season. But yeah, no, and here's the other thing. I guess like part of my built-in skepticism, and this could be wrong, is I am very doubtful that LeBron can play at this level for the rest of the year if he has to, and that Anthony Davis can be healthy. If I'm wrong, if LeBron James can play like he's 32, like he always has for the rest of the season, and Anthony Davis is completely durable, then maybe they're a better basketball team than I've given them credit for.
Yeah, I mean, his plus minus with LeBron on the floor, him being underwater by a significant margin,
isn't that weird?
Kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Although,
it is.
To your point about his health, I thought him sitting last night was smart. He had previously declared that he wanted to play all 82 games. And now all of a sudden you're going into this stretch with the NBA Cup and you're not going to play till Thursday or Friday, most teams. And it's like, yeah, take some time off, man. You're 39 years old. You're going to be 40 in a couple days. Like, just ease off the gas pedal just a little bit. We're going to ease off the gas pedal for a quick second. We're going to take a quick break. And then on the other side, we'll do our weekend radar segment, including Joel Embiid played in a professional basketball game. I can't believe it. It's true. It happened. This is Beyond the Arc.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game. Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long.
24/7.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, leave a review. And on Spotify, if you look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, you can leave us a question. Tell us what you think. All right, weekend radar time, Bill. Joel Embiid played in his first game since November 20th, just his fifth game all season. The Sixers beat the Bulls. They're now 7-15. They have won 4 of their last 5. The big thing here is Embiid not only played and played well, 31 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. He played 33 minutes, and their big three, Bill, of him and PG and Tyrese Maxey, who had played 1 game, a combined 6 minutes total. They played 26 minutes together last night.
So this is the first big 3 game that counts, right? This is the actual one that you get to evaluate because it's a complete game.
Yeah, the last one they made it through a quarter and a half before PG went out. So, yeah.
I mean, I'll lean into the optimism here a little bit. I mean, they beat a mediocre to bad basketball team, but Embiid got minutes. I like to give you a hard time. I'm trying to hold off here because they've dug themselves such a big hole. Yeah. I don't even know how to evaluate what I'm supposed to expect from them. I guess there's a world where they can do what Milwaukee's done and just whenever they get to a good stretch, rattle off a bunch of wins and get back to respectability, but I'm happy for you. I don't know. Do you feel happy that there's glimmers of hope? This is your team. You take the lead. I'd like to talk into the fact that yay, the Sixers, but I'm lukewarm. Yeah,
it's a little weird. They're a game and a half. I mean, it's the Eastern. I think it says more about the Eastern Conference than it does about them that they've won 4 of their last 5. They're 7-15, still a horrendous record, and they're a game and a half out of the play-in.
Yeah,
right. A game and a half out of the play-in in the Eastern Conference. This is why, there have been, I've talk to people in Philadelphia still, I always do. And, there were rumblings among, the media members, fans who were unhappy, like, maybe they should tank or something. Well, there's a problem with that because they owe their pick to Oklahoma City because they took Al Horford off the Sixers' hands and it's protected 1-6, and threading that needle would be very difficult. But also, this is kind of what they wanted to see, right? Can these 3 guys stay healthy and play together? And you're still going to have to manage Embiid. Embiid said after that game that, look, he was depressed about this latest start to the season not being good, and it's been difficult for him. And it's not a new injury that he's dealing with. It's the same injury, and it's just chronic swelling in his knee. So that's not going to probably go away anytime soon. You're still going to have to manage that. But with these 3 guys on the floor, You still don't know what you have. You've only seen a total of 32 minutes this season. I guess you just got to ride it out and let it play.
I mean, you said it. I mean, the East is so bad that you can right now be 5 games under 500 and you can be in the playoffs. I think another question is how far do you have to climb to feel like you're safe from a sure thing loss? You're losing to Boston. Is Cleveland good? Like, are you really that afraid of Cleveland if the Sixers get in a groove and they get into that play in whatever spot that is? I'm not. Like, I think Cleveland's been awesome, but
they had an issue. Mobley, who knows what's going on with Mobley now? I believe it was an ankle yesterday. So that part's concerning if you're Cleveland. Yeah, I would be worried about Cleveland. Everybody else in the Eastern Conference, no, because I mean, you look at Orlando was having a gangbuster season. Right. This is on my weekend radar thing. Franz Wagner just went down with the exact same injury as Paolo Banchero, and it's like, who knows if they can stay afloat? Nobody else aside from those two teams scares me. But the question is, like, those two guys, putting Maxey aside for a second, and he had his first career triple-double yesterday. He looked really good. Can PG and Embiid be healthy enough, and have they played enough minutes to understand how they play together?
What do they have to climb to? Because if you're worried about Cleveland, then you have to get out of the play-in, right? It's going to be out of the play-in. Cleveland, Boston, or Boston, Cleveland. If you're not worried about Cleveland, or if Philly kind of gets the thing is, if Philly plays Cleveland opening round series, and that's all they have to do, then they're in it, and they're in the mix right now, as you noted, right? They're a game and a half behind Chicago, whoever it is, as the 10 seed. So all is not lost for Philadelphia, even if they're bad, because they are the kind of weird team that if we have a long ways to go, but if they got in at the 10, say, or the 9, and they had to play the 1 seed, and the 1 seed's not Boston, I don't know, man. Like, it's still Joel Embiid. So if we're all the way in April and it's a healthy Embiid and Maxey and he and PG have learned to play together, I don't think it's the end of the world. So I do think there's a universe where their aspirations don't have to be the 3 seed now. Win as many games as you can. Obviously, you got to be in the playoffs. Don't play Boston, and make sure these guys are healthy. And there might be reason to be optimistic.
The Eastern Conference is so gross. I'm looking at this, when we're talking about them getting out of the play-in, they're 4.5 games. At 7-15, they're 4.5 games away from the 6th seed, which would put them out of the play-in. That's
disgusting.
It's really gross. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that if you're the Sixers, I understand why you would want to play PG and Embiid and Maxey together and just let it ride and see how it happens. But like, there's a little bit of false confidence baked into this thing because of the Eastern Conference, and just throwing up your hands and going, well, there's only 2 good teams. Why couldn't we just be in the mix, as opposed to actually seeing it for what it is, which is it hasn't been good so far. And I have serious doubts about Embiid being able to be healthy.
You cannot play Embiid or Paul George a lot of games. That's the problem with the hole that they're in, is that you have, whatever Adam Silver thinks, whatever the punishments, you have to pretend that they're hurt, and you have to load manage both of them, because they're both not durable historically. Paul George isn't, and Embiid's not, and you need both those guys to be healthy. So it's a giant hole they're in. That's not a good position. They're not in the Western Conference, which means that they're still a path forward. They just don't control it as much as we thought they would at the start of the year.
For things that are encouraging, I just want to mention this, and then we'll move on. So Maxey had his first career triple-double. He had 14 assists. 10 of those went to Embiid. So that was a positive.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's a great stat.
A positive thing to take away from that game. All right. What else was on your weekend radar?
So Dallas, I'm not sure it's quietly, but has been really, really good. And how do you want me to frame it when you include Klay Thompson? Big 3, big 2.5, big what?
Some sort of fraction there. Yeah,
it's a fraction. Between them, they scored almost 80 points in a win in a win the other night. It was nice to see Klay play well. I think Klay had 20 in that game, but Luka, Kyrie, and Klay a couple nights ago combined for almost 80 points. And that is a basketball team that, what are they, 16-7 right now? It's not as if they're struggling. They're playing really, really well. And Klay has not been great. And we've talked about this. And so it's one game, and my Klay nostalgia and just the fact I think most of us like the guy. But if Klay can get to a point offensively where he's just the third guy, right? Kind of what we thought, the Mavericks can be even more dangerous than they've been. They're on my radar. It's just a team that I probably need to start taking a lot more seriously as an actual Western Conference contender, which is silly that I don't, given the fact they made the NBA Finals last year.
Yeah, I'm the same as you, where I have to see it to believe it. But they're the hottest team in the NBA right now. They've won 7 in a row, and they're on the climb. And if not for some of those teams that are ahead of them, like the Grizzlies and the Rockets, Grizzlies are on my radar.
Me too.
They'd be
For the same reason.
They'd be right behind the Thunder.
Yeah.
They're playing extremely well right now. A team that is not playing extremely well right now on my radar, the Suns. Since Thursday, they have lost to the Pelicans. Now, keep in mind, no KD, but they've lost to the Pelicans. By the way, RIP Brandon Ingram, he's out indefinitely with an ankle injury. That team
they are cursed.
Cannot get healthy. They've lost the Pelicans, the Heat, the Magic without Franz and Paolo. They have lost 8 in a row without KD. Now, they haven't had Nurkic either, and I don't think Bud is real high on Nurkic to begin with. But the whole thing basically is if KD is there, they're going to be in the mix to beat basically anybody. And if KD isn't there, they can't beat the Pelicans and the Magic without Franz and Paolo.
What does that say about Devin Booker, by the way? I mean, Devin Booker is supposed to be the remember like all the talk about should you trade Kevin Durant, which looks ridiculous now, just in the vacuum of Kevin Durant is the reason they're good when he plays. But also some of the logic was, well, Booker's younger and he's not that level, but maybe he's close, or maybe Devin Booker, step up and win some games, man. I mean, that's part of the deal that you're supposed to be about.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it says is he's a very good player, but he's not of that level, right? I mean, he's not a LeBron or a Steph or a KD. He is a really good secondary piece or complementary piece, 1A piece. But if he's the guy, it's a problem. I mean, they're really thin. I mean, that's a thin team to take off one of your.
We knew that.
Like KD. Yeah, you're right.
But to the Devin Booker point, I also think it tells you he's never going to be, because we're deep enough into his career. We've seen enough of what he's about talent wise. It's not as if we're asking him to beat the Boston Celtics by himself without Kevin Durant. I think the other concern is that he is a number 2. And whenever the Kevin Durant era is over in Phoenix, Devin Booker's not a number 1 for a team that we're seeing this that's going to win. And it's not as if they have a lot of flexibility to fix things. It's not like it's going to be really easy to just bring in the next guy.
Pretty much locked into this team right now. But that's what Ishbia wanted, right? So you get what you pay for, and he paid for this team. And now you just have to cross your fingers and hope for the best that KD is going to be healthy. It's kind of like a Sixers situation where if he is, you got a shot. And if he isn't, then you don't. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will continue Weekend Raider on the other side. A whole bunch of things to get to. This is Beyond the Arc.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. There's a little bell symbol. If you click on that, you'll get notified when we go live. NBA Cup starts tomorrow, Bill. Tuesday, or knockout round starts tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday. We will be live after the second game tomorrow night, so come and join us on YouTube. Hit me with another Weekend Radar.
I'm going to give you 2 that are off of topics we hit earlier, but they're sort of, I want to get into the weeds on these just very briefly. One is my MVP vote that I'm going to have to do. I'm starting to get worried that I'm going to have to vote for Nikola Jokic as an MVP for the 4th time, even though Denver is going to be the 7th seed or something, which you're not. That's a tough conflict, because I do sort of subscribe to the Howard Beck model of you have to be on a top, it used to be 14 for Howard. I'll go 6 in this new model. Even that's not very. I'm just starting to get worried that the Nuggets are going to put me, and I'm about me, Jenny, sports writers are in a really tough voting position, because this weekend perfectly encapsulates the fact that he is playing at an MVP level, but his team is letting him down often enough that might be a trickier vote than it's supposed to be.
It might be. I think he's so clearly head and shoulders above everybody else this season. Like even with Giannis playing better and SGA marshaling OKC at the top of the Western Conference and Jason Tatum being really good for the Celtics. I just think like I totally get it. You're not the first person to bring this up, that it's like, what do we do if they're like the 7 seed? I just think he's so good that you do that. And I wouldn't vote for anybody else. Like, I think it's like him and then everybody else. And it's not his fault that
I know
construction has failed him.
Secondarily, we talk Lakers. People know Bill Plaschke probably primarily nationally as a guy that's on ESPN, but he's really, what he does is he's an LA Times columnist. And I find him to be very rational, very slow to sort of knee-jerk responses. But when he goes hard, he goes really hard. I don't know if you saw this, but sort of keeping a sense of the pulse in LA with the Lakers, he called for LeBron and AD to be traded over the weekend, which I found to be very interesting. And his notion was everybody wins, right? It resets the Lakers. They don't have the picks and the ability they need to rebuild. And then you get to send LeBron and Anthony Davis somewhere where presumably they can compete. And for LeBron, it's one last hurrah. Now LeBron would have to agree to it. Anthony Davis wouldn't, but whatever. The Lakers aren't. They're not going to trade a star without permission, even if they don't have a no trade clause, because that's how they operate. I found it really, really interesting that Plaschke.
Yeah, Plaschke mentioned that. Somebody else mentioned too that wouldn't it be interesting if LeBron and Steph finally did play together and he goes up to Golden State? And my whole thing is it's not happening. He just stage managed his son onto the Lakers. He's going to unplug himself.
He can get traded too. He can get traded too.
It's a package.
Wow, serious. It's a double LeBron. All right, let me ask you this. It's farcical. It's silly. It's ridiculous. But I still want an answer. If a LeBron Kuminga trade were like the principal parts of a trade, are you doing that if you're the Warriors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think if you're the Lakers, they're not winning a championship ever again with LeBron James. The Los Angeles Lakers are never winning a championship ever again with LeBron. They're never making a conference finals with LeBron. All that you're going to get is past glory wrapped in a 40-year-old body that's great, but not great enough. The idea of moving on from LeBron James isn't ridiculous from a basketball perspective.
No, from a basketball perspective, if we're thinking about this rationally, they should absolutely move on from both of those guys and just start over. But it's the Los Angeles Lakers. They don't do things like that. They're not going to take two of the biggest stars in the NBA and ship them off for parts and rebuild this thing on the fly. They're going to run it into the ground. They're going to run out of oil and run out of gasoline, and they're going to get stranded in the desert somewhere and then look around and go, okay, now we need somebody to come and pick us up. Wiggins
would have to go because of the money. All right, so Wiggins and Kuminga, because who wants one? I don't really want. I mean, Wiggins is so inconsistent. He's been good this year. And LeBron, I mean, and again, because if you're going to trade LeBron, you're going to have to facilitate where he wants to go. But I found it really interesting because Plaschke tends to write these things from a place of some knowledge and or an understanding of his fan base. And this is probably less about the Lakers want to move on from LeBron. I'm sure they don't. And more about he just has a sense that in LA, I think people are kind of over it.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, this thing is going to be over. And it probably is right now. But the other thing is, sometimes we don't really factor this in, but it is something that needs to be factored in, is that the NBA is an entertainment product, right? And you get a lot of eyeballs when you're the Lakers with LeBron James on the floor. And do you want to just unplug one of the greatest stars of all time to do the smart basketball thing when it would definitely hurt your entertainment brand?
Also, I don't think that their GM, the Lakers, is very good at his job. As with many people who have gotten to work in a situation with someone like LeBron, I think there's been an enhancement effect that probably is not related to Rob Pelinka. I'm also not sure that I want Rob Pelinka making those decisions as part of the rebuild. I'm not sure Rob Pelinka is succeeding without LeBron. So him being the one to trade LeBron is also a little underwhelming. But he's the GM.
He is the GM. They did win a championship with him
because of in the bubble, because of LeBron. You know this. I know that you're just provoking me.
Nobody cares about the bubble chip. It's like the least important championship of all time. All right. So a team that is playing extremely well right now that you had said before the season should be on everybody's radar. And they were sort of climbing up the Western Conference standings. The Grizzlies, I had said their point differential looks like they're going to be a team that's going to be better than their record. Well, now their point differential and their record have lined up. They're 17-8 all of a sudden, the Memphis Grizzlies, Bill. Second in the Western Conference, top 10 in offense and defense. They've had some guys out. Bane was out last night. Zach Edey is still a couple weeks away because of his ankles. Second best point differential in the Western Conference. And over the weekend, this one was the one that made me sit up and notice. They beat the Celtics in Boston.
Yep.
It snapped a 7-game home winning streak for the Celtics. And it's the first time the Grizzlies have won in Boston since 2013. I think they're legit.
Yeah, 5 guys in double digits in terms of points scored. Ja was amazing, and we know how good defensively that Boston team is. I thought they were legit. I thought they'd be legit. I thought they'd get legit, and I'm with you. It was on my radar. That win at the TD Garden, it solidifies and legitimizes the fact that the Grizzlies are contenders. They are championship level team as long as they're healthy, which is true for everybody, right? You take Shea off the Thunder, you take Giannis off the Bucks, whatever you want to classify them as. you take Tatum off the Celtics, even despite how deep they are, they're not the same team. So as long as Ja's out there, you and I could be talking. We could be talking about Memphis in the conference finals or beyond come May.
We absolutely could. And they've got a Warriors situation going on where they run out a lot of guys. They're deep in the rotation.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's helped them overcome some of these, periodic injuries. It's obviously not as bad as it was last year, but they've had guys cycling in and out of the rotation. And through that, they've found guys like, Jalen Wells and Scottie Pippen, who they just pulled off the trash heap.
Who's good, by the way.
Huff, right? They're just like
Huff.
great. Yeah, they're just like
Jay Huff. Yeah,
Jay, the former Laker Jay Huff. The guys who were cast-offs in the NBA who are critical rotation pieces for the Grizzlies this season. And you mentioned Ja too. Obviously, he's like the most important. Santi Aldama is another one who's played really well this season. But you mentioned Ja, who's clearly the most critical piece. And I just thought it was really amusing that, like, right before the Celtics game, Ja was like, I got to be more careful with my body. I'm going to stop dunking the way that I dunk. And then in the Celtics game, he had a double pump reverse jam on poor Kristaps Porzingis in one of the great dunks of the season and of his career, right after he was like, I'm not dunking anymore.
Yeah, a fish is not going to stop swimming. A bird's not going to stop flying. And Ja's not going to stop dunking. So it's not going to happen.
You know what? Like, I get why he said it, and I'm glad that he's aware that he needs to be more careful. I'm with you that, like, his nature is to do these things, but I'm so torn because on the one hand, I love watching him do those things, right? And on the other hand, we saw what happened early in the season when he hurt his hip trying to throw down an alley-oop, and he just didn't get to the rim, and he landed on it awkwardly, and he was out for like 8 games. And it's like, he's really slender, but he's ferocious with the way he plays and the way he throws. Like, he's so aggressive in the way he dunks. It's like an unbelievable amount of power, but I'm not sure that his frame can sustain it. So it's like, what do you do?
I think you root for them less often, and it decreases the odds that he gets hurt, but he still like pulls them out sometimes.
Oh, he's so good. He's so fun.
It's easy to forget because he's missed so much time. And let's be frank, he conducted himself in a way that wasn't likable and wasn't appropriate. Correct. And so that also took a lot of the shine and the sheen off. It's easy to forget that he was on track to be one of the faces of the NBA. And it's in a legitimate way. He's from a talent perspective, an execution perspective, a leadership perspective. He's a winner, and he's just so damn fun to watch. He's one of the best players in the NBA and one of the most interesting. And it's nice to have him back and be the Grizzlies good. The NBA is better when he's in it and he's playing well. And he's healthy.
Yeah, he's super fun. So are they. What else is on your radar?
So that's my last one because I was mostly focused on the Warriors. So I'm gonna let you close us out on.
I got 2 more.
All right.
Just quickly. One, they just lost to the Warriors, but prior to that, they had won 4 in a row. The Wolves, and I'm flagging this because we've been pretty critical of the Wolves on this program, and for good reason. But in that 4-game winning streak prior to losing to the Warriors last night, they had held opponents under 100 points in each of those games. And you think, okay, well, the Wolves, they play great defense. They were number 1 in defense last season. That's the first time they've had a stretch like that, Bill, since 2012. And I'm still like really skeptical about the Julius Randle fit. But my question for you is, through that 4-game stretch where they were playing better defense and they were like, oh, right, this is our identity. Do you think that like the Wolves are starting to course correct a little bit here?
So I am inclined to think that they are because I was at the
saw it up close
game.
Right.
Yeah, and they look good. They looked outstanding. And just coming off a Warriors game where the Warriors held a team to under 100 points and one without Steph and one without Dre, getting those guys back, you thought, okay, equally tough game. I think Rockets and Wolves, Rockets are actually a tougher game probably. Like this is a situation where maybe the Warriors are going to get right. And so the Timberwolves defense was even more impressive in person. So yes, recency bias, I am inclined to believe it. I also think that is a team that isn't right for whatever reasons, but getting back to defense is maybe a little bit easier than figuring out how Julius Randle properly integrates into your offense if he does it all. And so if they were going to figure some things out, it feels like defense was the thing.
Chris Finch moved Julius Randle to the bench challenge. Last one for you, just because it's 1, he's your guy, and 2, it's very impressive. Chris Paul, 10 assists in a win over the Pelicans. He moves into 2nd all time. He passes Jason Kidd on the leaderboard. Only John Stockton has ever had more assists in the NBA than Chris Paul. I mean, look, people knock him because he's never won a championship. He might never, probably will never win a championship, but the point guard for a reason, man. What a remarkable career this guy has had.
Let me give you a Chris Paul take that I've also had forever and said repeatedly, and you can tell me if you think it's wrong, because people think me and Chris Paul hating each other means I'm a hot take artist on Chris Paul, but this also have been accused of being a hot take. I think from a regular season perspective, and I'm excluding Magic Johnson here, but a typically built point guard, I think Chris Paul is the best I've ever seen since Isaiah Thomas. And I would put him ahead of Jason Kidd. I would put him ahead of Steve Nash. I think I would put him ahead of John Stockton. I mean, I know that there are people I know like Gary Payton who claim that Stockton's the hardest player ever went up against. I think for me, it's been since Isaiah Thomas with the Pistons where there's been a better prototypical point guard, at least as a regular season career player.
Regular season career player, he wins everywhere he goes. He makes every team better everywhere he goes. And I always think about his little short stint in Oklahoma City where that team was supposed to be just brutally bad. And it wasn't. And it wasn't because of him, because he's a guy who makes other players around him better. It doesn't always translate, obviously, in the postseason.
Yeah, he makes them better, and then he wears on them to the point, I think, I've been told this, that in the playoffs it kind of comes in praise. Sure.
Yeah.
But building a winning culture, he's the guy that, you bring in consultants to consult your company, but they can't run the company because everyone's tired of them when they're done consulting. That's what Chris Paul should be. You're a regular season consultant. You come in, you get rid of the dead weight, you fix it, you whip people into shape, but then you got to leave because everyone's mad at you for doing it.
Yeah. Just still, though, very impressive that he passed Jason Kidd on the list. All right, last thing here. We have NBA Cup preview predictions. We're not going to go through all this because we're going to be on tomorrow all day and then afterwards. But the games on Tuesday are the Magic at the Bucks and the Mavs at Oklahoma City. And then on Wednesday, you've got Atlanta at the Knicks and then the Warriors at the Rockets. What are you most excited for here? Who do you think advances to Vegas?
So I'm going to go. Most excited is easy now. It's Mavs Thunder. Now that I've come around, I mean, the Mavs have won a bunch of games in a row. Those are maybe two of the four best teams in the NBA. So that's a whole bunch of fun. Who am I going to advance? Will you judge me if I say Milwaukee because they're on a good run? Am I allowed to go? The
I
think
Magic
I'm going to go
Hospital Magic.
You know what? I'll go Knicks. I'll go Knicks Thunder, which is pretty close to feels like chalk. Sort of. It was either the Knicks or the Bucks. But I think New York, and we didn't talk about them at all, they're figuring things out, especially offensively. They've been better defensively. I'll go New York against the Thunder.
For the finals.
For the final. Am I picking who wins the whole thing?
I mean, we don't need to do that just yet. I got plenty of show coming up. But I think I'm probably going to go chalk here. I think it's Bucks and Thunder and Knicks and Rockets as I look at this advancing to Vegas. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Hawks pulled it off. And it's going to be a fun game. Awesome. Trae Young in the Garden. Yeah. So looking forward to that. But the one I mean, for me, Warriors and Rockets is the one because I love to watch the Rockets, and the Warriors have been so squirrely all season. I want to see they just got a much needed win. I want to see.
I just saw that game
a little bit. I know. Weird. Running it back here should be it should be interesting. All right, let's do team of the night and wrap it up.
I'm not trolling you. I know sometimes I do.
I thought about it. I considered it.
Yeah, you get your three guys out there, the big three for the first time, really, right? Like a complete game, and you get the win. Yeah, 26 minutes. Yes.
That's the win.
That is the win. Embiid's not injured as far as I know. So, yeah, I'll go Sixers. And it was a nice win. It was a nice moment.
This one for me, and they probably didn't want it, but they got it anyway. I'll take the Wizards. The Wizards lost 16 games in a row. They have looked absolutely brutal all season. They did not have Sarr. They did not have Kuzma, and they beat the best player in the world. It doesn't make any sense. The NBA is ridiculous. I guess it really is true that any team can beat any other team on any given night. I'm just really surprised that specific team beat the Nuggets, and especially on a night where Joker went supernova. Not in a million years would I have guessed that. How much money do you think was lost on that game?
Oh, a lot of money. Oh my God. Can you imagine if you're a Wizards fan and you were just in Vegas and you had too much to drink? Yeah.
Somebody put some money on that going, this is easy money. Joker's playing out of his head against the Wizards. They've lost 16 in a row and they're just ripping up their betting slip and going off into the night to cry. As I mentioned, we're not going to have a show tomorrow morning. Normally we are live every day at noon Eastern. Instead, we're going to go live tomorrow night after Mavs and OKC is the second game. So you've got CBS Sports HQ hits. And then once that's done, you and I will be live on YouTube. So everybody come and join us. As I mentioned, you can find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. A little post-game action, a little cup action.
Yes.
See if our let's get it, John. I'm excited.
We're going to do that the next 2 nights, by the way, not just Tuesday night, but Wednesday night. So Wednesday night after Warriors and Rockets. So come and join us, stay up late, watch NBA basketball, come and find us on YouTube afterwards. All right. For now, that's going to do it for our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. I am John Gonzalez. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow night after the NBA Cup.